Well, congratulations, Americans. Trolls 3 is finally hitting your cinemas. And I make a point to specifically point out Americans because, for whatever reason, Trolls Band Together came out weeks ago in the UK. I don't know why they still do regional differences, but we actually got this movie back on the 20th of October. I never saw it. I just never got around to it. But now that it's the day before the US release, I thought I'd give it a little check-in, see if families are just as raucous about this movie as presumably they were 26 days ago. And it turns out, no, I went to this movie all by myself as a grown, bearded 27-year-old man by myself into an auditorium space and nobody else watching this movie. It was dead. I was expecting it to be a real awkward experience to have to explain why I'm sitting in the corner while there's a bunch of mums and kids just watching something on a big screen. No. There were no kids. Everyone evaporated. For 90 minutes, I was just left alone in a giant dark room watching colors explode and vomit onto my screen. Now, we've previously done reviews of Trolls 1 and Trolls 2, and I'll be honest, I don't like them all that much, if you couldn't tell from the thumbnails. So really, you would come to expect more of the same. This is still a jukebox musical, and I hate jukebox musicals. I think they're lazy, I think they're boring, it doesn't tell a good story, it just makes pop culture references for the sake of doing it. It only works when Shrek 2 does it, damn it. And even then, I think they still picked up some niches and then made songs popular, like Smash Mouth. Now, I don't know if you've got plans to watch the third Trolls movie. Do be sure to let me know if you're genuinely going to watch this in the cinemas or not, but let me give you a little bit of the rundown ahead of time. If you're a big fan of the DreamWorks logo, be prepared to see some slightly new switch-ups, since this time they preview the Crudes, as well as How to Train Your Dragon, Shrek, Puss in Boots, Madagascar, and the bad guys, so it's nice they switch up the logo. And then we go straight into the idea of seeing the old school boy band, right? After you've had all these different species of trolls, and Bergens on the side, now they're going to introduce that the pop trolls were also once boy band trolls. Sure, it passes, okay. I guess that means we'll get 80s trolls in the fourth movie or something. Still, you can guess where the story goes there. They do a song, it goes wrong, they split up, right? And the format of their jokes for this movie are a little different. Whereas in the first Trolls movie, you get fart glitter, and in the second, you get a lot of... Well, to be honest, I don't really remember any jokes in the second movie. But for the third one, it takes a slightly different approach. For a start, there's an office-style camera motion, always with either the boy band talking or the main villains. The camera is handheld and it's zooming in the whole time, and it surprisingly really works for Trolls with how energetic and weird it is to be literally zooming in and around it in one shot. Works in a very energetic way. They also have some very formulaic jokes that you've seen before, like there's a point where someone zooms into their abs and it's super detailed, you know, kind of like a SpongeBob joke there, but I can't lie, it works even if it's just copying someone else's formula. But then they'll also throw out that YOLO, I'm going solo mofo bro line. You've seen it in the trailer. Awful. It's a beautiful 50-50. We also actually get to see the grandma that was killed by music. But yes, anyway, the plot of this movie is that the band are all trying to come back together. For some reason, it's done in the middle of a Bergen wedding, which also is a weird thing. The second movie completely deleted the idea of the Bergens, and this third movie, again, kind of deletes the second movie instead. They mention in passing the Rockopolis, but you don't see any other versions of Trolls in this movie. Not really. But anyway, after frustratingly spending so much time just interrupting the wedding, and it's interrupted in quite a frustrating way because the brother says stop the wedding just to go talk to his brother, not even like the bride or the groom, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, there's a beat about how Baby Branch doesn't want to be treated like a baby anymore, and Tiny Diamond comes along and also doesn't want to be a baby anymore. And then soon enough, off they pop on their little road trip to see the rest of them. And you know how I said that there aren't any other trolls in this movie? You know, you just go back to the Bergens and the original trolls. Turns out, now they're introducing entirely new species things with these noodly humanoid EDM people now. These are the villains of your movie, and what is it with everyone doing noodle characters right now? I mean, this is DreamWorks' second. It's very, very strange. There's also a section where you see, like, puppet people. Like, it's lovely, I guess. There's some nice visual arts going on with the landscapes that the Trolls series has always had, though I also feel like this one's been a lot less creative. There are, like, moments of the 2D cutscene which just happens for no reason. They just are like, oh, hey, look, we got a hustle button. Want to press the hustle button? And then they do the hustle. And then they mash it up with every day I'm hustling, and then that's it. There are still those very Trolls moments of just doing something for the sake of doing something, you know? Anyway, speaking of the villains, what's going on is there's basically the villains are Jedward, but a boy and a girl, and they have one of the troll brothers kept in a diamond perfume case to spray with his talent in order to suddenly be good and able to sing. They are pop succubi that literally suck the singing talent out of you, which is, you know, interesting. Actually, that's another thing. I mean, the movie does actually use the word succubus or succubi. There's also a lot more sexual references in this movie than I expected, more so than the prior ones, and I think it's like the new direction for young kid comedy, which is very strange. And I think it started from Puss in Boots 2. In Puss in Boots 2, you remember the dog? There's a moment where he just starts swearing like crazy and they properly censor it out, and like the kids loved it. It's like, oh my god, he's actually swearing, even though they couldn't hear him. They do the same thing in this one. There's a moment where Tiny Diamond, in getting scared, just full on drops an F-bomb, but they block it out. And I think it's similarly, they just, I don't know, because it makes the parents laugh and they're apparently able to get away with it now in a U. There it is. There's a point where the Bergens are on their honeymoon. They get tied up for a plot point we'll get to later. And one of them says to the other, wow, I didn't expect both of us to be tied up this honeymoon. Wow! Trolls movies, they grow up so fast. But anyway, yeah, going back to my point, these villains are like the worst part of the movie. They're really cringy, and maybe that's the point. Jedward was kind of cringy, but I don't think it was. They have like really weird lines and their characters aren't really that compelling, you know? Some of the lines they have are being like, he has resting moody vibe face, when referring to the troll that's being drained of his power in the perfume, and it's like, you know? But anyway, the reason that the band need to get back together is that if they sing well enough, they can harmonize to the point of shattering diamond, which is exactly what the perfume case is made out of. Although it's also revealed later on that the villain is the one that actually sent that letter, which also makes sense because, you know, the brothers in a cage. But then, how does she know that they would want to come together to shatter the diamond? Oh, a tiny thing. Honestly, it's actually kind of harder to nitpick this movie. It's well done. It's just it's just in the genre that it's in. I like, actually, a good chunk of the jokes they make. They make a joke about how Justin Timberlake once had frosted tips because Branch did. There's a sunset joke where they're looking to match a sunset off a postcard, and then they eventually find it by looking out the window, and it's the exact same sunset, mountain, and the words from the postcard that say, welcome to whatever resort, or thank you for visiting. And it's literally the text is floating in the world, like a Minecraft build. It's brilliant. But then in other directions, there's really weird assets. Like Tiny Diamond has like a sweetie dummy ring that he sucks on, but he keeps offering it to Branch as if it's drugs. And then he's like, no, I don't want it. But then at the end, when they're driving, Branch is like, no, I'm going to drive, and also I want the drugs. And then it gives him the powers by babifying himself for a minute. It's weird. He's in a nappy by the end of the movie. Anyway, as they go along, they do start picking up the brothers one by one, and they're all the complete opposites of how they were back in the day, you know? The heartthrob is now shackled down to a family and a wife, the giant puppet people. Why does that exist? They even ask how that works in this movie. The fun guy is now the most boring admin guy. You can see what they're going with there. And every time they pick up a new boy, they have to practice their boy band element, and so it's just an excuse to do another song as they go along. And it's a shame because sometimes there's good choreography and moments to these bits, and other times they just delete the background and start dancing in front of that. It's like the same kind of thing I criticized the Ugly Dolls for, where some bits are good and some bits are just naff, you know? Hey, you're halfway through this video, so if you'd like to hear more new movie reviews, then do subscribe. I do them sometimes, just cinema viewings are rarer than my daily uploads at the moment. But what is nice, and maybe this is something they've done the entire franchise and I've just never noticed, some of the songs aren't just a singular song that you know and they've just repeated for this jukebox musical. They've actually mashed it up to combine all sorts of different elements with the same theme together, and it feels a little bit more produced, a little bit more creative, a little bit more original. The first big boy band practice combines pretty much any time they mention boy band in a song all together. So they have like the whole Backstreet's back, alright, I want you back, and Staying Alive is in there as well for some reason. But it's nice. Other times, songs do just seem a bit barraged. There's a lot of songs in this moment. In fact, after that boy band's mashup, it then immediately goes into some tinsel-looking lady singing Working 9 to 5. No changes, no adaptation, it's just there. Now, alongside the theme of boy bands, there's a big theme about siblings in this movie, since Branch has his whole collection of brothers, and Poppy, for whatever reason, now suddenly has a secret sister that they didn't know about. It turns out they're now retconning the intro from Trolls 1, where not all the trolls escaped from the city, and Poppy's sister was stuck in the trapped caves, tunnels, and fought off the Bergen to escape, and went somewhere else and huddled up in a mini-golf place. Does anyone care? Does this matter? Alright, do what you want. They then have a mini arc about hating the Bergens and refusing to let anyone leave because they're worried about the Bergen threat on the outside because they're still stuck in whatever year Trolls 1 came out and haven't realized that the world has moved forwards and that this is a kid's franchise. 2016. There's also then a moment where a character just criticizes the story themselves and asks why they haven't just called the authorities on their stolen, kidnapped brother, and they just said, "What? No, well, we could do it ourselves." And then they don't address it any further and try and save them themselves instead. Oh, by the way, in case you're wondering, James Corden is gone. The tiny squeaking worm is still about, and now he gives corn to other characters instead. And also, he's a therapist with a really deep voice, because, you know, that's like very classic, simple, easy joke, but, you know, whatever. Actually, that's the thing. They basically removed all the old ensemble group. They just left them at home, and only Tiny Diamond came with them. I don't know if it's because he's the most popular, or they just, you know, can't help but ensemble themselves up, but didn't want to overbear it with a whole group and all of Branch's sibling family. I don't know, but, you know, good for them. They paused it out. James Corden has been eviscerated from the Trolls universe. Everyone can cheer. Oh, along with the intro, I think they've also retconned Grandma getting killed by music. She was eaten by a Bergen, apparently.
Because singing killed my grandma, okay?
Or I just didn't remember Trolls 1 very well. Why would I? I don't need my memory banks filled too much with Trolls now. But while a lot of this movie is just kind of more of the same, with a little bit of an improvement, the jokes are a little bit better, the presentation's a little bit gooder, you know, they haven't got all this old ensemble cast, James Corden is gone, and they have better mashup songs. Something that really starts to make this shine is the finale of this movie. Once they all bring everybody together and they're off on their way, they're done with the stupid, lame, easy jokes and the hustling moment for a 2D section for no reason. We get to the final part of the confrontation with the villains, where they go to this big concert that the villains are taking, using the last of Brother Floyd's powers. There is a weird bit where he just suddenly starts running away from them while in the perfume cage, which just makes you think, why couldn't he run the entire time if he's that agile? But that's fine. What then starts to happen is the final battle actually takes place during a song sequence. And I'm not sure if they've properly done it before. I think it's just because their villains aren't usually singers. No, they are. Trolls 2 totally had singer villains. Either way, for whatever reason, it really works well this time. To have their villain be these giant people with big noodly limbs trying to step on them and also running away on car, so it's a chase sequence as well while they're singing, honestly gives me vibes of Shrek 2 again. The one time that I think a movie has done pop culture music correctly is in the Shrek franchise, and I Need a Hero with Jennifer Saunders' version at the finale sequence of Shrek 2 really brings everything together nicely, and I think this movie was mimicking it because it really kind of works. Not only are they first chasing them on cart, but then eventually they're trying to chase them onto a boat, and a couple characters fall into a river and then start drowning. It's not as deathly sad because they live, but you know, whatever. And then they're tiny trolls trying to fight against these giant noodly people with their big Balenciaga high heel boots. It works really nicely. And it's not even them singing at this moment, it's just the villains doing it. And again, it is a mashup of several things. There's Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, you got a little bit of Fame, I'm Gonna Live Forever, that kind of thing. It just worked really nicely. It's a new Shrek 2. And it is by DreamWorks, so I guess it makes sense that they kind of know what they're doing. And then, though the main brother is usually being far too bossy, and that's what caused them to break up in the first place, now with a new sense of maturity and aging, Branch takes the lead and they all do the thing properly. They start singing inside of their suits, because also their suits become more diamond cages to hold onto their body. Don't worry about it. And even though they technically don't have microphones, so the whole audience that is watching them on the screen can't hear them, they do their singing thing, they all start harmonizing and levitating up, and I guess even if they're not singing, it levitates them up. Also, Pink Girl and her newly discovered sister are also involved in it as well. They levitate, they shatter the glass, wahoo! And then everyone's like, wow, we beat them. It helps that one of the villains just outright confesses to the screen that they're frauds. And also they did tax evasion. DreamWorks has picked up on the tax evasion meme, and now it's canon. Great. The trolls kiss, insinuate a marriage. I'm sure they'll make more sexual references in the fourth movie. And then, actually, NSYNC show up and sing an original song. I had no idea it was even original until I came home and researched a little bit afterwards. But hey, I am the worst person to pick up your pop culture music references. My favorite taste in music is the ones that don't have any lyrics. Or one of those ADHD bing bong calm down polyrhythm songs. Yeah, it turns out canonically in the Trolls universe, not only was Branch a baby in a boy band, he also then joined NSYNC in his teenage years or something. This universe is just full of histories and retconning. So now you've got 5 different species of trolls, you've got the Bergens, and then 2 new species of troll-adjacent thingamajiggies. Everyone's got secrets, and we have no idea which canon and universe we're even going to follow into the 4th movie of Trolls, if there even is one. I don't know. They do a marriage fake-out where Branch just proposes to Poppy to join a band instead of get married. And then the credits are just the concert. Just a barrage of songs, which is nice. I stopped looking at the screen at this point because, again, I was alone in a cinema, kind of freaked out, kind of awkward, waiting for a staff member to come forwards and wait for me, and only me, to put my rubbish in the bin. Like, that gave me too much anxiety. I was trying to wait for a post-credit scene, and I'm like, this guy's gonna be wanting me to go to him soon to deliver the trash, and here I am sitting still, waiting through the credits of Trolls by myself. Anyway, there is a post-credit scene. There's a mid-credit scene of Tiny Diamond talking to the therapy worm. And then there's a full, like, 10 minutes, it felt like 10 minutes, of this long, drooling credits with all the pop songs you can imagine in the world. And at the very end of it all, there's no post-credit scene. How am I supposed to know if there's a Trolls 4 now? Now I'm just going to have to flip a coin. It's a 50-50 chance I'll make another. I would actually go far as to say, this is the best Trolls movie. It's still a jukebox musical. It's still got these annoying characters, but a lot of the worst ones were kind of left at home or just eviscerated entirely. I think DreamWorks is getting a nice formula for making it work. The mashups massively help, the jokes are getting better, the story is functional, and even the cloud guy, but he only appears briefly. He's hungover and he vomits on the camera, but he's mild. I think a lot of messaging and theming is still lost. They sort of make a thing about how siblings are like the most relationships in the world, but then don't really double down on it much. There's a weird thing about not being treated like a baby, but then Tiny Diamond at the end says, I'd rather be back to being a baby. I don't think it's got much messaging. It's just a fun story that's fun to rag on. Will I make a terrible episode out of it? Maybe. Maybe I just need to fester on the thoughts a little bit longer and see some real reviewers just call this thing terrible. But actually I found out the original 1 and 2 Trolls movies have been rated quite well, so maybe I'm in the minority here. I think DreamWorks is just getting better at what they're doing. Or at the very least, they know how to do their finale sequences. Make it a chase scene, make it a big mashup pop culture song that has the energy and the vibe and the almost epicness of the tale. And leave the annoying people at home. But yeah, there you are. There's my surprisingly positive review of Trolls 3 Band Together. Now, we just have to wait for this movie to come out on streaming for me to do a full-blown, piece-by-piece, showing clips and making jokes about it too kind of review. For now, though, I'd best end it off here. My name's been Daz. You didn't really care. Let me know your thoughts on this movie if you came out to see this damn thing in the cinemas, or just say if you didn't at all. Are you gonna watch this? Is this enough? Are you skipping it? I imagine you're skipping it. Wait for the terrible episode. And I'll see you in a little bit.